residents of Herculaneum. With us today are Larry Hill, Shelba Hill, Rhonda Rapp, and David Rapp. Welcome to everyone. Let's begin with, are you a resident of Herculaneum at the present time?
No, I'm not. Shelba and I live in Festus now. We moved about 2 years ago. It was a result of being bought out by Dora.
No, David and I have not lived in her. He actually moved out, I guess his family moved when he was 9, but his dad continued having his insurance business in the town forever, and I moved out when we got married back in 65. We're from Peterborough.
Okay. When did you first come to be a resident of Herculaneum?
Well, actually, I was about, I was in first grade, so about 5 or 6 years old, I guess. I was born in Festus. We moved to Herculaneum when I was about 5 or 6. My mom and dad both lived in Herculaneum before that, but like I say, I was born in Festus. So.
And I've lived here biggest part of my adult life, except when he was in the Air Force, and we were in Tacoma, Washington for about 2.5 years. So we came right back here.
I actually was born in Herky, in a little apartment above his father's. I mentioned it before, his father had an insurance agency and there was rented apartments above. And my mom refused to go to the hospital. Now that's a no story, but that is where I was born, right there. And something interesting, the insurance company that his father, it was a brokerage, but it was in the building from the old Bank of Herculaneum. And
that's probably something most people don't know, but there really wasn't.
And the original vault, and the teller's windows, and all the old grimy woodwork that would have been there 100 and whatever many years before. Original was there, the floor was original. Really quite something to see if you're a history buff.
I don't know. I'm not sure when the bank was closed. I mean, I don't know.
I think that probably, well, the building after it went under just started sinking. And I don't even know that's all I remember them doing.
Yeah.
We did that for 50 years or better, I guess.
Yeah.
That'd be in the, what, 30s or 40s?
Probably earlier than that.
What is it?
Anyway, I was born in St. Louis, but just because the hospital was there, and I lived in Herky for 9 years. Then we moved over to what's now Peterborough.
What are the names of your guys' parents?
My dad was Lawrence Hill, and my mother was Margaret. Her maiden name is Horn. So.
And mine is Roy and Marge Simpson.
Were they from Herky or they lived somewhere else?
They lived in Herky, and my dad lived in Herky all his life.
That's your mom?
No, well now Mom, no, she lived in Richwoods until her and my dad got married, and then she moved to Herky.
Yeah, my folks was Mark Todd, and my mother was Alan Haggard, which happens, there's a lot of Haggards around here. But, and there are a few Todds left, not many, but Daddy was born here, but his mother died when he was 5, so he was shipped off to St. Louis to be with an aunt and uncle. And my mom was actually born in Fredericton, and when her dad, Clifford Haggard, was transferred up here with the mines and the smelter, is when she, as a baby, maybe a year, 18 months old, her mom and dad would be on her to her land, so she really didn't know anything about her.
My dad was John Rapp, everybody called him Butch. He was from the area and had his business in town forever. And my mom, Ella's from St. Louis.
Do you have any kids who went to Herky or?
Shelba and I have two sons, Sean and Dustin. They both went to Herky. Both graduated.
Yeah, both our children, Mark, our son, and our daughter Becky Rapp, they both graduated from Herky. Yeah.
How many generations of your family has lived in Herky? Or?
You know, I know there was 1, 2, 3. I know of at least three generations on my mother's side. She was a Horn, but her mom I know lived in Herculaneum, which was my grandmother, all her life. And on my dad's side, I don't think, only maybe a couple generations.
Yeah, I looked back and all I could remember was 3 generations on both sides.
Yeah, including, yeah, it's about the same thing, like I say, the parents, some born here, some, no more than 3, the tops.
Like I say, no, really. I mean, Dad was born in the area, but, he lived in Herky till I was 9. Nobody else was left to live close, but not in town.
Okay. Where in Herky have you lived? And can you recall any families that lived in your neighborhoods?
Well, see, I was,
50 of them.
when we moved to Herky, when my mom and dad moved back to Herculaneum, they, like I said, lived here one time and they moved back. And we moved in with my grandmother and grandfather just right across the street from school here. And we lived there for 2 or 3 years, and then we moved over on Brown Street, and that's where I was raised. And after I graduated and got out of the military, Shelba and I were married when I was in the military. We came back and we lived up on Main Street for 3 years, then moved to Dale Street, and we lived in Dale Street for 30-some years until they got tired of us and run us out of town a couple of years ago. So that was basically pretty much.
Well, I grew up on Short Street, and when you come up the hill from the school, it's the second little street on the right-hand side. And I can remember my neighbors and their kids that I grew up with. The Pattersons, which is Tom Patterson, which is Dad, and his brothers. And then next door to them was the Williamses, and I think there was 6 kids in that family. And then next door was the Bateses, and there's still an awful lot of Bateses around here. And let me think. On the other, across the street from them was the Evanses. And I know for sure there's a nurse and a doctor in that family, but I don't know. Oh, let's see. That's different Evans. I was trying to think. And Bernice Johnson and Dorothy Kincaid lived on my street.
I thought they lived behind you.
No, they lived down the street, yeah. And, let's see, Marie Carter's family lived down on the street, and then Arlo Polson's family lived next, yeah, they called him Jughead, that was one of the.
He married my aunt, so that was okay.
And he was the one that nicknamed everybody in town, and his nickname was Jughead.
Yeah.
And the guy across the street, Artie Patterson, was Foul Ball.
Well, there's a lot of them. Everybody.
Spitball Williams.
Well, Spitball.
Well, then, you know, in Herky, I've been around the country quite a bit. I don't think I've ever known a small area where there's so many nicknames. Now, and they kind of stuck, you know. I mean, it wasn't that. I'll tell you what. Whenever I was in grade school, I got the nickname Porky, and it wasn't Now it
He
fits,
was
but back
little.
then it didn't. I was,
He was little.
I was pretty
He
small
was
then.
little.
Freddie Gray and Marlon Hahn gave me that name, and it stuck. And to this day, there are people that I went to school with or that knew me back in the 50s and 60s, and they really don't know what my name is. It's still Porky. Every now and then, I'll see somebody and they'll say, Porky, you know, and it's amazing, you know, how things stick. But this area did have an awful lot of.
Well, you know, Larry, for a small town, there were a lot of neighborhoods. And each neighborhood had its own collection of
Characters.
characters.
Yeah, characters. Yeah, that's what we call them.
And they all had special names. And we'll let it go at that.
Moving around.
Moving right.
I'm sorry, I can't.
What was the question anyway?
We don't know.
Where in Herculaneum have you resided?
Oh,
And
yeah.
can you recall your family's split?
Yeah, I started out on Church Street, and then I went to Festus for about a year, and then I came back to Thurwell Street for a few years, and then I was over on, whatever street that was that Chuck Coley lived on. I lived on that street for a while.
Somewhere over here.
Yeah, that one right over here.
Right behind school.
But yeah, and then I was up on Joachim for a while, and like I said, I was born downtown. My mom really enjoyed moving. Is about what it amounted to. But Thurwell Street's the street the area I remember most. And it was in a part of town called Concrete Town. And simply because all the houses had been built like, I don't know the exact dates. I'm going to say like turn of the century, maybe the early part of the century. And they were 3-room houses made of cement, concrete. And through the years, of course, they were added on to the roof.
Yeah,
It was a basic 3-room house, a bedroom, a kitchen, and a living room.
Were they, well, I'm not sure, but I always thought that maybe at that time, St. Joe lived.
Oh, yeah, they were
I mean,
company houses.
they had built, I
They were
think.
company houses,
Yeah.
which meant you either bought them outright or you owed the company, it went
Or your
on your
home.
tab.
Yeah, rent, yeah.
A
Either
renter. So you always were in debt to the company, just like the company grocery store.
Well, we had a company store.
Always in debt to the company. They controlled the town, but at the same time, they were benefactors too.
Well, they provided.
You know, they provided homes, they provided work, they provided a doctor, education. If it wasn't for them, the school system probably would have started.
Free water.
Free water, free slag in this winter time on the streets. And, yeah,
Which is good for rock fights too.
rock fights.
Yeah.
Real good for rock
Never
fights.
ran out of slag for rock.
Go ahead.
I lived on, what was that called, Curve Street?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, that's Kirk.
The house is kind of just south of where the city hall is, or police department is.
Well, yeah, be where City Hall is now.
That
Yeah.
used to be the field where we had our forks in and got fires.
Fires that you began.
Fires, big fires.
They
You
began
know-
fires just so they could put them out.
You know, one thing that I don't know if anybody's ever mentioned, maybe they hadn't remembered, but whenever I lived up there with my grandma and grandpa, when I was real small, like say the first grade, on the corner they had an old concrete firehouse, and in that was an old buggy that had basically just a hose on it. So if one of the houses caught fire in that neighborhood, they could pull that out, and they did have fire extinguishers. I mean, fire hydrants, and they could hook that hose on to the fire hydrant. And they had these old firehouses, and there were several of them
Interspersed
downtown. I mean,
That wasn't even horse drawn, I mean, just.
They're just
pulled
pulled.
well,
They
I
just
guess
rolled
they
it.
could have been, but
Maybe at one
Just
time.
pulled that.
Mhm.
yeah.
Because that was before the volunteer fire department.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Came, and after that started, which was a wonderful
That was a huge
institution.
point there, they go up so fast that you couldn't get to it.
Well,
Anyway.
But you know, that was kind of interesting. I don't think I had seen anything like that before, and in fact, I kind of forgotten about them, but.
But you know what, there again, that's something that St. Joe led.
Yeah, they got
responsible.
it, yeah, they got it.
They were benefactors and anybody.
Oh, there by, Google's garage?
Yes.
Yeah.
There was.
Yeah,
There
that's right by
was.
where we live.
Right. There were several around, but and you know, but.
Okay, did you or any of your family members work in Herculaneum, and what were the places of employment?
When I was a kid, I think maybe a freshman or sophomore in high school, I went to work for the St. Joe led cafeteria. I didn't work in it. Was inside the gate, but I worked for the cafeteria there. Harry and Eleanor Vaughn run it at that time. And I went to work and I was making, I think it was right around 30 cents an hour. And I was, you know, might have been 31 or 32, but I think it was 30. And there wasn't, well, my brother, after he got out of high school, he did go to work for, I guess it was Doe Run, by that time it changed.
Your sisters worked down.
Well, yeah, my sisters all worked there. 3 of them worked down in the cafeteria, which is probably why I got on down there. But, you know, I think if there was one, I mean, I think living in Herculaneum was a great thing. I mean, I really do. But if there was one drawback, it was probably that we didn't have very much, there wasn't much opportunity for young people really to work. I mean, there wasn't, you know, like people in St. Louis, you know, kids had an opportunity, you know, maybe to work a lot of different restaurants or something, and we didn't have that. But, I mean, there were a few of us that got work, but I mean, not too much. That's the only thing I remember about it.
Yeah. The only person that I know for sure worked for Doe, well, it was St. Joe then, was my dad, and he stayed down there for quite a few years, and he was a welder. And then he went on to St. Louis to work on these big tugboats and do a lot of things in the steel and stuff like that.
I started working when I was 12 and a half years old. And, you know, Shelby Drug. There's a drugstore downtown on the V. There was a V down there. You can probably see it in the layout of the sod now. They're making a hook. But there was a number of buildings in there. And, but that drugstore had, when I was a real little girl, was owned by Honey Domar. Little old man, just sweet as sweet could be. And
Wasn't he a pharmacist?
I don't know that there was too many regulations back then. And yeah, he probably did fill some prescriptions and whatever he needed to do. But he was a sweet, sweet old guy. But he, of course, when he died, he left the business to the Shelleys. Norman and Don Shelley and Norman's wife, Cotton, and his real name was Juanita, but everybody called her Cotton. And I worked for Norman after Don took off. Never mind. After Don and Cotton left town, I worked for Norman until I graduated high school.
Yeah, like I said, my dad had this insurance business there for years and years. And his dad, Grandpa Rapp, was a butcher over in the company store for a number of years. And that was right across the street from Dad's office there at Grandpa. And that's about all right.
No, I've never been in there.
You're proud to say it.
Yeah, I've never been in there.
Been on the slag dumps and on the bluffs and all that, but not in the plant.
Did you attend elementary school at Herky? Or?
first grade at Festus, and then around Christmas time we moved here to Herculaneum, and I went first through the 4th grade at Herculaneum Elementary. And at that time, the school had burned, I don't know, but anyway, we had classes at different places. And I was trying to remember all my teachers. Miss Vaughn, was there a?
Vogt. Miss Vogt was our
Yeah,
first grade
the
teacher.
first grade teacher.
Lovely lady.
Fortune was 2nd grade. Cass, wasn't it? The 3rd grade or?
No, it was Marlene Gilbert.
Yep, that's right. And then who was the lady?
Miss Parker.
Miss Parker was our 4th grade. Now, after that, I went to the Catholic school
Oh,
from
you
5th
did?
to the 8th. So we had a little Catholic school here in town. And I went to Catholic school 5th to the 8th, and then I came back and went to high school here at Herculaneum. But that's,
Well, Larry, we didn't get to go to kindergarten because
Well,
of that. Well, you weren't in
I
town
wasn't
anyway.
down anyway, but I didn't go to Festus, so.
Yeah,
That was,
I remember the day that happened because I would have lived in that direction and I'm on Thurwell and you could see the black smoke billowing and Bill Haggard's dad, my uncle Casey and my other uncle Took Haggard were at the house for some reason and they and my dad took off running toward the school. And I remember running part way down the street. I was just a little kid, 4 years old maybe. I remember running down the street after him, you know, because anyway. But I stopped when all the kids started coming out in the street, and some of them were just so happy. And others were crying, you know, but it was quite a traumatic thing, you know.
Yes, I remember that well because I was home with the chicken pox, 5 years old, in kindergarten. And I really didn't know what was going on because my mom and dad ran out the front door and left me in the house. And then they finally let me come out on the porch so I could see the smoke. And then after that happened, we all had to go to a different building, or we went to kindergarten in the basement of the Baptist church. And so I think if I hadn't had the chicken pox and all of that stuff, it may not have stuck in my mind as well.
Well, school burned down.
Yeah, school burned down.
Oh, there was some black smoke. It was really.
To answer your question, yeah, I went from kindergarten through high school.
Oh, yeah, me too. Except I didn't go to kindergarten, schoolyard.
Mhm.
Yeah, I remember when I went to Baptist church, I guess I was probably 2nd through, when did we get the new building?
We were in 2nd grade when we started that new building.
Yeah, I guess I was in 4th grade though.
Right.
In elementary school, do you like remember anything special about your teachers or anything that happened?
I remember the different ones give you a paddle.
That's just what I was thinking. There's pretty much one that sticks out in my mind.
Freeman,
Yeah.
he beat you
Well-
down. Miss Parker hit you back here on the calves till you went down.
Yeah, Mr. Freeman was the principal at the Herculaneum.
And he would paddle, literally.
Yeah.
He would paddle. First graders.
He'd break the
I mean, he was bad. Really bad.
Stern.
Pretty
No,
stern.
he was bad, Larry.
He wouldn't get by with it now. for
No,
sure.
Yeah.
no, he wouldn't have, he'd been in jail now, Larry. He would have been in jail.
Well, I remember. Now you think you had it.
Oh, I never got hit. I was a good kid.
Well, I'll tell you what. Now, you guys might have seen some, you know, some, maybe the Blues Brothers or something like that. Catholic nuns whack it. It's true.
They were mean.
But you know, I probably deserved it. I mean, I'm not going to
No.
say I didn't because you know I probably did something I shouldn't. But for the most part, you know, it was pretty good. You know, I think. But it was a lot different. It was a different time, and like they say, you know, today.
Can't touch it.
Well,
Well, you
it's just,
shouldn't be hitting
just
first
not that.
graders with a board. I don't care what time.
I didn't say it was right, I just said
No.
It's just different today.
Okay. Did you attend high school in Herky? And do you recall any of your teachers, principal, or counselors?
We had a wonderful time in high school. It was not like now. This was known as the play capital of the county. Kids would get kicked out of other schools just so they could come to Herky. And I know that for a fact, because one of them married my cousin. But, yeah, we had a good time. It was kind of loose and free around here. It really was. It was good times. Nothing bad, ugly. There wasn't, you didn't have the drugs, and you didn't have the drunks, and you didn't have, it was just kids being kids. Not in school, no. But you come in and all the doors be off the johns. They'd be sitting behind the furnace. And just silly stuff.
We dropped the pencil sharpener out on the cord to the windshield, Mr. Heiss's class, and then everybody said they wanted their pencil sharpened, and there would be no pencil sharpener there.
Just goofy stuff. Everybody in the class bring an apple to the teacher. She'd have a bushel of apples sitting on her desk, didn't know what to do with them. But just goofy, just beautiful crab apples.
Mr. Hobbs, coat full of crap.
Just goofy stuff. Nothing was really taken too seriously back then. Unfortunately, I think we robbed ourselves of an education.
I don't remember.
He was never there.
There wasn't a whole lot of education
He wasn't
going
in
on back
school.
then.
Larry was
Two
never
times
there
a week.
that day. You say, do you remember such and such? Like, no, I wasn't there.
No, that
Well,
wasn't
he
it.
wasn't there that day. He was seldom there.
And then Miss Heinzman let him sleep in her class because she knew he worked.
Well, she likes
He took
she likes
Latin,
boys,
and
She
she
liked
told her,
boys.
he said,
She liked boys.
just, I don't care if I make a good grade or not in this class, I need to sleep because I'm tired.
Well,
And she passed you every time, didn't she?
yeah, but you have to understand. I worked a lot. I did. Whenever I was a senior in high school, see, back then we only needed 16 credits to graduate. And one of those credits was PE, and we got a quarter of a credit per year. So you had to take it 4 years, but I mean, to get
You
your
only
credit.
needed 15 academic credits.
That's what I majored in.
Whenever I was a senior,
But
I
for sports, I
needed,
wouldn't do that.
all I needed was my quarter credit to my PE credit. But in order to go to school, you had to take you had to carry at least 4 solids and plus the PE. And so I was working a lot, and I'm serious. I mean, I worked an awful lot. I probably worked 40, 50 hours a week whenever I was a senior. And so it is true that I did miss a few days of school. And
Larry,
but
you wouldn't, you were never there.
well, but
And if you
and
were,
here
like
again, it was a
Shelba
different
said, you
time,
were
guys.
asleep.
There wasn't any. You didn't have to, as long as you made the grades. And
Or we're given the grade.
Yeah.
well, every time you got it. I mean, I don't think that's probably changed a whole lot. But I mean,
I'm not gonna mention any names, but I can tell you somebody that made it through Herculaneum High School who couldn't get a rap.
Oh, I don't doubt
He
that.
couldn't get in the army because he couldn't pass the intelligence test.
Well,
I do not doubt that at all.
probably true. But no, I'll tell you what, we had, you mentioned about teachers, and really there were some really, we had some that, like every school district, maybe not the best, but we had some awful good teachers
We
too.
had some, yes.
We had some, I won't start mentioning
did.
because I'll leave somebody out, but we had some really good teachers.
We did. And a couple that come to my mind were Mr. and Mrs. Parker.
Yeah.
Loved him. She was biology. He was what? Math?
No,
History? What was he?
he taught general science.
Science. Yeah, they were excellent teachers. Really could relate. Didn't take any crap off of us.
We had
Without
a
being
good,
mean.
business teacher too, Miss Baki. I mean, she
She was a character in her
She
own
was a
realm.
character, but
But
you
she
learned
did
her.
know her subject. She certainly did. Yeah. And there was a couple of history teachers. I learned a lot from Rollo Herbert. I thought he presented new situations to us, things I had never thought about before, and situations like that. But the thing of it is, we can sit here and mention a few, but unfortunately, back then, the standards weren't just real high here. And we had an awful lot of teachers that were very lacking. And came here simply because they couldn't get a job. Couldn't get one in.
There were no college-bound courses back then.
No college.
Anybody went to college, I take my hat off to them, because
We had
they weren't prepared.
And we had some very good people come out of our generation
Oh, yeah.
through this school, and like Dave says, God bless them. I mean, they did it on their own, and
A friend of mine wound up getting his doctorate from MIT, and he was basically self-schooled.
yeah. He couldn't
I asked him one time, what did they teach you? And he goes, well, I said, you taught yourself, didn't you? Well, yeah.
Another head of radiology at Lawrence Hospital. There's quite a few in our generation that went on to really excel. Most of us did. Most of us were average ones.
Did you guys play like any sports or part of any clubs?
He was quarterback.
That's what I majored in.
Good
That's
team.
what he majored in.
Good
Football.
team. They were top of the line back then. Yeah.
So you play football, Dave? I played football and
Football,
track
baseball, track.
team.
And basic basketball, they came on with it.
Well, you guys are too little for basketball.
I couldn't make the transition. Forearm shivers and not following.
No, he was an excellent athlete. Larry was too. The guys were visible back then. I mean, there wasn't too much. They didn't do it. And we were just cute.
Just cute, we could be being cheerleaders.
We were just cute.
Were you guys, any of you like in Boy Scouts, brownies?
Larry was.
Yeah, I was a Boy Scout.
That was for 2 meetings.
I don't know, I don't remember how long it took me to make star, but ever how long it took. But no, I was in the Boy Scouts. I didn't take advantage of the Little League program. I did play Little League. A lot of the kids in town did, but we had a field, Evans's field, called Mr. Evans owned it. And it was like about three lots. And when we were real young, we played football, baseball, softball. I mean, it was just, all the kids, when we got out of school, all the kids, I mean, they might go home and then they'd run to Evans Field. We played, and then we played till dark.
Oh, yeah.
And in the
Ball,
summertime-
any kind of bat, whatever.
Yeah,
I mean,
it didn't
nobody
matter.
stayed
It didn't
home.
be
We
our
were
time.
out and about
No.
doing something.
Today, everybody goes home and on their computer, and they play their computer games or whatever, but we didn't have that. But we played together, and I know that in other parts of town, they probably had their own
The
little fields
same
and stuff
thing.
around.
Every little neighborhood in
I
town
can
had
remember
its
we
own
actually
place, yes.
started Little League. I was on the first team
Yeah.
that they started Little League. I can't remember what year it was. Then we had a quarter league and just pick up games and Indian ball all the time.
No.
Indian ball, yes.
And,
They were
well,
over
that
there
was
lose
one thing.
flyers and she wouldn't give it back.
Bottle cap.
Well, the field over
Play
here,
that out in the middle of the street.
where they used to practice football field now, well, that was the baseball.
And it was deeper.
Yeah, it was.
Well, yeah,
Yeah.
it's way down the hole. But in the summertime, I mean, us kids play ball on that all the time. We play what's called Indian ball, which I don't know if you guys know what Indian ball is, but 3 or 4 guys can play then, if it's a
Yeah.
game play. And But I mean, we were, whether it be, I spent a lot of my time fishing on the dry creek in the summertime, and a lot of other times too. And then playing with the other kids in town, ball and stuff like that. We didn't really, I guess, we didn't miss the organized sports too much here.
No,
And we had stuff we did. And it didn't-
It's all, you know,
There was always
there's always something going on.
going on somewhere, yeah.
As an adult, have you participated in any civic or social organizations or been involved in any elections, any elected positions in Herky?
Well, I was elected to the Board of Education here at Duncan R5 and served for 12 years. And that was, my attendance was a lot better for the meetings than it was in school.
Yeah, he has become
Well, yeah,
He's self-taught.
So, and I'm quite proud of that. I enjoyed doing that, and the people gave me the opportunity, and I appreciate it.
He was a good student.
The only thing that I can remember doing is work for the church. Because we used to have bingos and different kinds of dinners and things like that down there. And I enjoyed doing that.
Outside of working out of the home, I participated a few years there with March of Dimes, Joseph County March of Dimes organization. For like 3 years, I helped organize it for the county. It's not something I have.
Okay. Did you attend church in Herky, and do you remember any of the clergy who worked at your church or special events?
Yeah, I was raised Catholic, and in fact, I mentioned earlier that I've gone to the little Catholic elementary school. And I might mention that back when I went, we had 4 classes in one room. In other words, there was first, second, third, and fourth grade was in one room. And I started there in the 5th grade, and the 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th was in another room. And, like row 1 was the 5th graders, and row 2 was 6th, 7th, that's kind of how they did that. And, it was just, you don't have any, I don't think probably have any of those anywhere anymore, but, back then, this was back in the 50s, that's kind of how it was done. The priest at that time was C.J. Callahan. He was an Irish priest, pretty strict, but he had been there for a long time, and he was there quite a while after I got out of the school there. I don't remember. I really can't remember my teachers there. But they were nuns. They weren't lay teachers. And today, in a lot of the Catholic or parochial schools, I don't just say Catholic schools, but parochial schools, they have a lot of lay teachers. I think people that are not, that was different then.
Where was the Catholic school?
It was right next to the Assumption Church, which is
The school
on.
building is still there.
What is that street?
Let's see, Church Street drove this way.
Station. Is it
I think that's
Station?
Station Street.
I guess it is. I
Yeah,
guess
Station Street.
Station Street, I guess. I think it's-
Billy said it's Station.
The building's still there.
Is it?
Yeah, it's right next to the Masonic Hall. The Masonic Hall is there, and then there's a 2-story brick building, and that's where the old school was, and then the Catholic Assumption Church.
And I went to the Methodist church from, I guess 5 years old till I was like in the 8th grade. And then I joined the Catholic church. And the only really priest that sticks out in my mind was Father Sutter. And he was just a down-to-earth talk to you anytime. Didn't have to call, knock on the door, you could go in anytime, and the community just really fell in love with you.
Now, I was raised in Baptist church, the one Catholic church that's there on Station at the head of Church Street, and all the way down to Church Street, near where some of your relatives used to live down there, was the Baptist church. And I can't remember what year it was, but about 10 years ago or so, it burned. Maybe it was longer ago than that. 89. Oh my, 91. Oh my word. Yeah, but it was well over 100 years old. But I grew up in that church, and John L. Sullivan was the pastor, preacher. And probably the only one we had until I was a young adult. The only one I really remember.
And we went to church, the Lutheran church over in Beavis.
I just like to say that one of the, asked about different clergy, Baptist church had a Reverend Todd.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think it's any
No,
relation.
it was no relation, but our families did get
I'll tell you
very
what,
close.
one of the nicest guys, he'd ride his bicycle around town. I lived on Dale Street, just a block over. I mean, he'd just stop and talk. I mean, it didn't matter, you know, it didn't matter what religion you were or anything, you know. I mean, he's just a great guy. Just really, really enjoyed him. He was a really nice fellow.
Yeah, he had lost a son named Mark, and of course that was my father's name. And so, I don't know, I guess through empathy and osmosis or whatever, we come from the Todd family, our families did get quite close. But, yeah, Charles Todd, yeah, he was a good man, good man.
You,
He's a looter.
Well, no Lutherans in that thing.
do you remember any other businesses than the ones that were like family and stuff like
Oh,
that?
man, there were so many businesses in this town. You
It's
can't-
remarkable.
Yeah.
Yeah, my mom and dad had a business on Main Street called Riverside Inn. Started out as a restaurant, and a lot of us kids would go there on our lunch hour because my mom made these huge hamburgers and put her own special sauce on it. The kids loved it. And then after about 5 years of that, the building next door was the old, what they called the Vaughn Dairy Building. And it was up for sale, so my dad bought it and started a tavern. So there was food on one side and tavern on the other
We did it all
side.
the time.
So I flipped a lot of burgers when I was younger, but was a lot of fun.
Yeah, there were a lot of, downtown, like where I was talking about that V, there was the drugstore, there was 2 hardware stores, one of them even had furniture, there was a hotel, there was a, Chinese laundry, there was a, TV repair store, the OKP Hall, there was 2 taverns.
Oh,
No, there
Street
was a tavern.
Every other door was that.
Well, okay.
Down every other door there was a tavern.
Well, we used to say for every church in Herculaneum, there were 2 taverns,
Yeah.
something to that effect. And it was a shoemaker down there,
Charlie Bouchard.
Charlie was
Funeral
short.
home.
The funeral home,
Two grocery stores.
Mr. Lott's store, and up around the corner across the street from the Sonic Hall was Homer Lucky's store.
Jimmy House.
Jimmy, well, that
Well,
company
that's
store,
store.
Jimmy House ended up buying that. And that was just downtown, and then there was like little delicatessens, like interspersed just about in what we used to call each neighborhood. There was Ozzie Gold had one up on North Main, Mabel Paget had one over in Concrete Town.
Yeah.
Hood and Vera Douglas had one down in the old Green Lantern, which used to be, I'm not sure what it used to be.
Gas station.
Gas station, but I think.
Then they
Well,
turned
it's
it
see Green
into,
Lantern and then Flossie back and
Flossie
put that
right
shoe
next to the
store
shoe
in.
store in there.
and then Who Does?
Oh, and we
Well,
had,
Douglas actually.
Had that,
we had the old Veneta,
Theater.
theater, and next door to
Library.
Vaughn's Dairy, there was a bakery up on the
Mrs.
hill.
Baker.
The
yeah.
library,
Dugan's Garage.
Dugan's Garage, there was just numerous.
And the bakery made fresh donuts at night. So we would go to the
Everybody go to the
movie.
back door.
You had to go in the back door to get the donuts, and it cost 15 cents to get in the movie and 10 cents for popcorn. I can remember that, and I always had an extra nickel to get me a donut. And
Penny Sugar.
Krispy Kreme donut is nothing compared to hot dog glazed donuts from Mrs. Baker.
Yeah, yeah. I used to get in the Veneta free, cause the owners, Aisel and Veneta Locke, lived right next door to us, and they'd take me up there. And I'd get to go to the projector room, and they'd bring this big tub of, well, to me, I was going to bitty tub of popcorn. They're the ones that did it. Got me started on popcorn, but yeah, it was, there was numerous businesses. It's just absolutely amazing. I mean, it's like well, a village has
Place
disappeared.
next to Evans Hardware Store on the south end of it. A little strip.
There was
There's
something there,
something in there
but I don't
like that.
remember what it was.
Well, the post office was there for, when we were real little, before it moved across the street by the drugstore.
Some little business, okay.
Well, B&L Supply, which was better
Well,
Yeah.
you know,
But there's
Yeah.
a
Lucky.
little strip store right next to the
Yes,
south.
I remember, and Petches
That
moved
wasn't a
in
shoe
there.
store, was it?
Remember Petches?
Yeah,
No,
Petches-
Charlie was
Petches
over on,
moved in
No,
there.
I know
on the
that
other
one,
side.
behind Dad's building.
Yeah, right
But
behind.
there was something,
Yes, there
real narrow
was.
little strip
Yeah.
store in there. I can't
Yes, there
remember
was.
what
I
it
don't remember either. Was
Well,
that
I-
where the Chinese laundry was?
No, that was down by Vex.
Oh.
Bill reminded me yesterday of the fact Dad did run a sport shop
Oh,
there.
yeah,
His
John
sport shop
County,
there.
his
he
dad
bought-
had that
yes.
sporting goods
I
store in
don't,
his
I don't
house.
remember how many years.
Side
It was out of the,
Thing on.
And it was mostly just fishing and hunting, but that was
Did you?
pretty much it. He didn't get involved with like the bats and the balls and all that kind of stuff they do today.
it was amazing the amount of business that was down in that little downtown.
Mhm.
Yeah, yeah.
Unbelievable.
And of course, at one time, the bank, and of course, one time, Herky was the county seat.
Yeah.
You know, so.
That
It's
was a
just-
bowling alley.
Oh, the bowling alley, yeah, we had a bowling alley.
What was it, 4 lanes, 6 lanes?
6, because I bowled down there.
Was it 6? Oh, I thought it was only 4.
Yeah,
Okay.
and the guy set the pins or whatever.
Doctor's office down there.
Oh, yeah. Doc said.
Doc Sin, before him, Doc Hanson.
Company office, right?
Well, he was on the corner, wasn't he, Hensley?
His house was.
Yeah.
Remember when they moved their house up that hill, Shelba? You don't remember when they, oh, I remember when they moved
They
their
had a
house.
little two-story.
And I mean, it was amazing. People came from all over the place just to line checking off his hill to watch that house being moved. That's where Hank and Judy Scher live now, up on
On the hill.
On the hill. Oh, that was amazing. That was amazing.
Do you remember like any colorful individuals or unusual nicknames?
I think
We've
pretty
been
much
told that we
mentioned-
can't talk
We
about
can't talk
it.
about
it.
Well, we might make some derogatory statements and Bill, and no one wants to get in trouble, so they warned us.
I
Oh,
only
yeah.
can remember one, Gar Dunnigan.
Gar Dunnigan,
Oh.
okay, thank you. Gar Dunnigan.
And he was, Larry, you probably can tell more stories about him than I
He
know.
lived across the street
Well-
from my grandma.
He
Yeah,
was
Gar-
just a story.
Well,
My
he-
grandma knocked him out one day
Well,
with one fist.
uh, well, Gar was unofficial mayor, and
Actually, Justice of the Peace.
he used to do a lot of guys' taxes in a year, and his office was in Tiny Carnes' Tavern. But it was, yeah, there was quite a
Gardy
few
always used to put a
characters.
quarter in his ear.
Huh?
Wasn't Gardy one who used to put a quarter in his ear?
Quarter in
all the
his
time?
ear.
I believe he did. Yeah, I think he did.
Volunteer thing.
I mean,
Yeah,
there
like we
was.
said earlier, every little part of town had at least one character,
Mhm.
sometimes two. There was a guy named Boodles Moffett.
Pat Cooney. That was,
Patterson.
that was
That was
Pat.
uncles.
Which I don't know if you probably don't
Do you
remember Pat
remember
Cooney, but,
Pat Cooney Patterson.
that was, your grandma's, I believe your grandma's brothers.
Oh, yeah.
They lived right behind, your grandma's up there. This is going back a long
Way
time.
back.
Yeah, there was not Vineyard, who was,
Check.
you know, we can't tell too much, but we know, you don't want to be,
Don't want to get out too
you don't want it to come back in the form of a lawsuit.
That's a good question. There are lots of characters in there.
There's lots of
There's lots
characters,
of them.
and off the record, we could probably tell you a lot of things. Yeah, there was characters on every street, every block, there was at least a character. And,
That was strange too, the
And
different neighborhoods within the neighborhood. I mean, it just, you talk about a block or so, it would be a total different group of people that hung out, did stuff, you know, and go to their part of town, their part of town. No, it was just down the street.
and to be quite honest, every family had somebody
Well, yeah.
that you just weren't real proud of, you know. I mean, you loved them, but you weren't real proud of them. And it's just, it was so small back then, and we weren't exactly intermarried, but we certainly were, knew each other well. And there were quite a few characters.
You know, it really was pretty unique, and I'm going to get away from just a little bit from your questions there. To say that, you know, I don't remember all told how many years I've lived in Herculaneum, but I never locked my door until probably a year before we left. Now, a lot of people, and I'm not saying that people should do that, or, you know, never took my keys out of my car when it was parked in the driveway, and never had a problem. Nobody ever.
You felt safe.
Yeah,
Because
really.
you were in a
That's
neighborhood.
Well, no, yeah.
Well,
we
and
did
you
that.
had neighbors.
What he's talking about? Was he?
He was kind
county
of a
or what
marshal or
was he?
something, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was.
Part of the sheriff's department, I think, probably a
Yeah,
deputy.
he's county, wasn't he? I don't
Then
think
you had
Fergie had
Ferguson.
anything for.
Fergie, remember?
Ferguson was.
Fergie,
yeah.
I forgot
Yeah.
about him. Yeah.
So, I mean, no, we didn't have on the beat or anything like that.
Everybody knew everybody. If you was a kid and you did something, your parents are gonna find out.
Find
Oh,
out.
yeah.
Nobody
Yeah, I
would
mean-
know.
Them than you would anybody else.
I mean, I've got a girlfriend who said she was walking home one day, and this guy comes by in a car and says, "Get the car, it's getting late, I'll take you home." Well, we didn't think nothing about it, but she got the car. Well, he brought her to my house, thought it was me. And, but that's what you did back then. You took care of everybody else's kid, one way or the other. We were talking about that, I think your last question is, do you have any fond memories of Herbie? I think that's my fondest memory. As little kids, 6, 7, younger even, we were out roaming the streets after dark, going from house to house, and nobody ever thought.
But there was always a bunch of us.
There was always a bunch of us,
Mhm.
but even
You could go,
so,
you didn't have to
it
worry about it.
never dawned on anybody that something could happen to you.
That's falling off.
Yeah, fall off the bluff or something like that,
Down in the creek.
but drown in the creek, but.
We had a few of those.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
did, unfortunately, but, so far as being afraid, no, like Larry said, no one ever locked the door, nobody
What's
ever.
that boy's name that drowned right there by your house down there? What's that boy's name that drowned right down by below your house?
Well, Riggs,
Riggs.
Ivan Riggs.
I don't really, such.
But there were several, you know, we lived right there on the creek, and I do remember several people drowning, in my, you know, while we lived there.
Well, that's something too, back, younger, but ice skating. creek.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yes.
Well,
That's
when I
something that's
mentioned
never
all
done
that,
anymore.
like,
Whole
doing
families
things,
would come
you know.
out. You know, build a fire and you'd ice skate half
Yeah,
that long.
and you'd have, I mean, you did have one or two kids down there. When the creek froze over, this is back in the 50s and 60s. I mean,
As soon as that bell
there'd
rang,
be
we
a
were in the
bonfire,
creek.
there might be 50 kids down there, ice skating.
I took
till
my ice
midnight,
skates
you know.
to school because I knew that I wasn't going home. And we
Yeah.
burned those old tires down there, Larry.
Oh,
Mm.
Well,
Well, the dark, you can see how smoky and sooty you're getting.
We
Or how
skated
bad
on the,
that lady was staying.
on the Joachim, most of the time down by the bridge where the bridge is down right now.
Yeah.
And right there, and if the ice wasn't quite good enough there, there was a little pond over
Horseshoe.
Crystal Heights. We'd walk, it was, we called it Horseshoe Pond. You know,
I don't even know it's there anymore.
You went to lawn tours most of the time.
Well, and Wantours was another, one, Big Bass Lake, or what they called it later on, but it was
One
Wantours.
tour when we were.
We skated on it, but in the winter, yeah, I mean, we skated. If it was cold.
Sleigh ride,
I
golf
mean,
course,
we-
go
yeah,
sleigh
it
ride.
was-
And he lived in Peebly after we got in high school and stuff, and he would skate from Herky down the creek and then walk over the hill to get home when he
Well,
skated.
I come down the hill, put my skates on, skate down lawn tours, and tiptoe across down the creek, skate the creek down there.
Yeah,
Till everybody was gone, then go back at night, skate back up, cross lawn tours, and then go up the hill.
Yeah,
It was
parents would
juicy
start
story.
showing up about 10:30, 11 o'clock at night. Get yourself at home, you know, it's time to go, and we get up, go to school next day, and the ice, as soon as that bell rang, 3:30,
it's pretty neat.
it was.
Do you recall any man-made or natural disasters that happened and affected the city?
St. George.
You know,
They dumped the slag too hot. Boom!
well,
Sulfur smell throughout town on Sundays, Rutgers,
yeah, I don't, you know, I guess the school burn was probably
school burn was a biggie.
biggest things.
That happened there.
I don't remember anything that sticks in my mind. I'm sure stuff happened, but we were so insulated here that
Well,
all
I
we
guess
thought about was
truthfully,
what was going on in town.
I suppose the biggest thing maybe really, I mean, if you stop thinking about it, certainly that had the most effect on the town was just a few years ago whenever they decided that there was too much lead in part of the town, and there were several of us that were relocated. In fact, I think 162 homes. If I'm not sure, I think that's pretty close. So if you take 162 homes out of any small community around here, it's going to make a big difference. And I think, I mean, if you just drive around now, if you knew what it was like before, and you drive around now, you can see a tremendous difference.
Old Town is gone.
Well,
There is
yeah,
no
I
Old
mean,
Town.
Well, there's no downtown. There hasn't been for
And,
years.
And all the old places.
I guess if you're talking about Herculaneum, that has to be probably the biggest one
Shock.
issue that
Shock to our
that-
system.
in our lifetime especially. Now, I don't know, that has to be the biggest.
Well, that too, and the simple fact that downtown died.
Well, yeah, there's not.
There was so much there, and then just
Yeah.
nothing. I mean,
That-
Turkey
that-
has no
that-
downtown.
that
really.
did-
It really upset me to have to move.
Yeah,
Because
we,
I remember my childhood place growing up. And then my home,
Yeah, it's,
well, it's, yeah, I mean,
it's like your past is being washed away, wiped away.
Yeah.
As though it didn't really exist. And like I said, those of us that grew up in Herky in the 40s, 50s, and 60s, the earlier parts were so vibrant for a small town. I mean, but and so healthy. I don't care what they say about Joe Ryan, say Joe. We lived a healthy existence. We really did.
Can you remember any games or activities that you guys did when you were younger that today kids would think would be unusual or weird?
Well, I'm gonna,
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Well, other than the BB
Yeah, I mean-
wars and the sled fights, the mud ball fights.
Horse
Sweet spears, yeah.
yeah,
Other than
we,
that, no.
I think the big thing is that, where today, I think, the kids today have so many organized, activities. But when they're not doing that, they're probably, playing their games, whether it be on computer or, I don't know the names of all these.
Well, they've all got vehicles and they've all got, the technology is just so much more.
It's so different.
And yeah, I mean, it's just a different set of circumstances. One of the things I remember as a girl, comic books were such a big thing in my life when we were little. We would sit for hours, girls would, that I was familiar with there in Concrete Town, and trade comic books. I mean, that was a big deal, trading comic books.
Marbles?
And yeah, guys played marbles. But comic books in the summertime were the big deal. And
The only thing probably that sticks out in my mind is walking, because nobody had a car.
And we walked.
And we walked everywhere. Now, I don't know that today,
Bicycles?
these kids would want to walk like we walked, but we walked to the drugstore. We walked around town. We walked to each other's houses.
oh, we might have
And
walked
we had
5 miles
fun,
a day.
you know,
We might
I
have
mean,
walked
We walk to
easily.
school every day, too.
Easily,
Walk to
5 miles
school.
a day, because when you got home, you didn't stay home. You took off again. Nobody ever stayed home. You were always on the move, somebody's house, or you were on your way to work, or you were on your way to whatever, Minas or whatever.
There was no bus service in
No
town.
bus,
Oh.
no bus service.
No matter where you live, you walk to school.
Family was lucky, they had one car, and there was none of these 2-car things going on.
Not very many.
If we wanted to go to the movie in Festus, our parents would make up their mind who was going to take us and then who was going to come and pick us up
Yeah, it was quite a deal to get to go to Festus, to the
Mhm.
movie.
to the movie.
Not only the
Cost
money,
a
but,
dime, though.
I know, I was starting to say, not only the money, but just the logistics of getting there
Yeah,
was
right.
a big deal.
I
And
think
of course,
one of
we
the
had
things-
Teen Town.
Yeah, yeah, there was a couple things, and I was gonna mention, when we were growing up, we had there was a couple that took it on themselves to, every Saturday night, we had Teen Town down at the old KP Hall there in Herculaneum. And it was really quite a nice thing, it was just a place to get together with the other kids, dance, they had a jukebox, and a lot of times they'd have bands come in and play.
Live music, yeah.
And it was really, there wasn't much else in Herculaneum.
There was, other than Vaughn's, there was nothing
Yeah.
else to do.
For us to do.
And
But-
it was
You
really,
make up stuff, too.
God, it was a wonderful
You ever play
place.
monthly peg?
Yeah, oh yeah,
Knife?
with the knife, yeah.
But
And then, the one other thing I think
I don't know where that
that,
came from.
that we probably, that we didn't really mention too much, I mean, brought up a little bit. Here at school, back whenever we went, we had 6 periods a day, and so we had a longer time for lunch. And we had the co-op, which was actually under this building. And the co-op was run by the juniors, basically, money for the senior trip. They sold school jackets, they sold, they had soda machines, they sold snacks.
candy, potato chips.
They had a jukebox, and we'd go down there, if we didn't, sometimes we'd run up to campus and get a couple hamburgers, come back down to the co-op, and, we'd dance, we'd play music and dance, or just, it was just absolutely a great place.
You know what else I remember, Larry, is during lunch period, some of the guys had started rock and roll bands. And they would set up in the old gymnasium on the stage. And we would dance in the old gymnasium on
We danced
lunch.
every
We
place we
danced
could
everywhere we
dance.
could dance. The kids would gather, you know, even those that didn't dance, we would gather in that, you know, I don't know.
Oh, I thought
We
it
made our
something.
own, we made our own fun.
When we had a junior prom, the juniors always got ready for the senior prom, but we always did our own decorating. We'd have a theme. We always had it at the gym at school. I mean, we didn't go off campus to have our proms. And we
Actually
just
transformed
really
it.
had a good time doing
It
it.
actually transformed that old gym. It really did.
The
I mean,
juniors always did.
yeah, the
Yeah, the
juniors
juniors did for
Yeah,
the seniors.
Yeah, I mean,
That was fun too.
the school art teacher usually would help us with set designs and stuff like that, but it was really,
Elaborate. Most
it
of
really was elaborate a lot
A
of
lot of
times.
great people.
Yeah, but we would have like mood lighting and it was really.
Yeah, well, whatever theme they come up with, you
Yeah,
know.
it was nice.
But that co-op was probably the neatest thing, and it's a shame, you know, of course, after we went to 7 periods, which we did my senior year, that cut the lunch hour down from like 45 or 50 minutes down to about 20 minutes.
That's when Joe Casson quit school, because he couldn't take his hour for lunch.
Well, I
And
had
he
kind
just
of
quit
problem
school and
myself,
he
but
quit school and joined the
I
Navy.
managed finally to cope with it, but it was kind of a traumatic thing.
Yeah, when he was there.
But I won't say what happened there,
Yeah, Joe actually quit, because
you
ever
know,
since
it
we
was
were.
really, no, I mean, you know, really, that was, I think that was probably one of the neatest things about this, and I don't know of any other school that had it, maybe they all did, I don't know.
No, they
We
didn't.
we had it here, that was pretty-
That's why so many kids tried to come to this school back then, Larry, because we did have, and it wasn't mean fun, it
Oh, no,
wasn't
yeah.
ugly, it wasn't, illegal, it was just, we were party people.
Yeah,
Well, lunch used to be an hour.
Yes, that's what he was saying.
well, yeah, it was quite a while,
Yeah, it was
When I was there,
We had
it
a
was
lunch
an
hour.
I think.
Yeah.
So-
Well, a lot of the kids walked home.
Well,
Well, yeah,
that's what Joe did, he walked home
That's it,
every
when
day
you
since
walk
first
home, you had to
grade.
have an hour to, so you could
And
walk
he
home.
said,
and
I've
come
been
back."
walking home since I was in first grade and I'm gonna take my hour. And he kept getting in a little trouble, so he said the heck with it, he quit school and he joined the Navy.
well,
So was a character.
How much time you guys getting out?
20,
25 minutes.
Yeah,
25 minutes?
yeah,
Jeez.
yeah.
That's not even helping.
Well,
School board member, that's not even helping. Okay. Oh, you're not. You're not any longer? Okay.
well, it's, well, you know, like I said, it's just a different time. I don't think you could probably do those things today. I mean,
And have as much fun as we did doing it.
well, it's just that there are other things to do now.
Oh,
And
yeah.
we didn't have a whole lot, you know.
You guys got so much, and it's wonderful that you have it, you know, but it just means that it was just something you nor we can relate to
Either way.
either way.
Yeah. Well, you know,
Don't have to use your imagination so much now. Things that we made up and
well,
crooked
Well,
stick
that's
killed
true.
Indians, you guys got the real stuff.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, use your imagination back then.
did any of you have a car or?
It was a big deal when I got a used bike.
Are you kidding? We were happy that my dad had a car.
See, I think there was a couple guys.
Yeah,
Some had
there were a
cars,
few
and we
guys,
were,
We were out of school.
oh, we had a car.
Oh, we were well out of
I
school.
thought she had the car.
No.
Margaret Martin's the one that had the car.
Well, I don't know if I didn't.
I mean, there were some kids that did, you know.
Very few. The kids lived out of town.
Yeah,
Anybody in
right.
town, forget it, you
Yeah.
didn't have a car. to
No, we
speak of.
didn't.
Maybe one or two. Marlon had.
Like I say, we put a lot of miles on our souls.
Oh, yeah, we walked.
Yeah.
Do you have any memories of the bowling alley and the KP Hall? Theater.
Well, I think, you know, the KP Hall, that was kind of, like I said, where they had team down, which, that was just great. KP, of course, stood for Knights of Pythias, was, you know, the organization,
And
St.
then that's where we had, well, that's where we had our, as Boy Scouts, we had our, when I was in Boy
At
Scouts.
Boy Scouts, we had Girl Scouts there.
We had Boy Scouts
Girl
meeting.
Scouts.
We went to Girl Scouts at, yeah, we didn't go long. That was,
I think I remember making apple salad. That was the only thing I could remember.
But
I
the
wasn't
bowling
too
alley,
impressed with it.
it was a 4-lane bowling alley, I believe.
Well, I thought
She
it was
said
six,
it was
but maybe it
six.
was 4.
I think six, I don't remember.
I think it was 4, because I used to set pins down.
Well, maybe it was 4.
And, yeah, it wasn't, we didn't have automatic pin setters, I mean, you had guys back there that were setting the pins for the bowlers.
When you got done, if they did a good job, you roll a quarter down and got it.
Well, yeah, you might get 10.
Might get a quarter would be a good night.
What was it, Dave? How much did we make? It was just a few cents a game.
The biggest thing was, well, I
Well, yeah,
remember
yeah.
sitting back there and laughing at and heckling the bowlers.
Well, yeah.
You
But they,
better not.
I mean, they had regular bowling league, you know, and I mean, the men, they come in,
Daddy
they
bowled
bowl.
too.
I still
Yeah,
get that bowling.
Yeah, Mr. and
I
Mrs.
bowled
Baker.
1 year.
I remember getting fired down there one time. Mr. Baker fired me because I did something I should have back here in the back. And before I got out the door, Miss Baker hired me back. So I was just out there. But it was kind of a neat place. I mean, and busy. They stayed busy all the
Oh,
time.
yeah, oh, and all the people in town, I
Yeah.
mean, there was no Quonset. Was there a Quonset back then?
Oh, no.
No,
Not
Bowling
yet.
right around.
Thunderbird come along later.
No, Quonset was before Thunderbird.
Was it?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay, well,
yeah,
it
Quonset
was
was
a little later.
Quonset burned at one time.
Yeah.
What year did they close that bowling alley? I don't remember anymore.
Yeah.
Probably after the big one started that time.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Couldn't compete with automatic
Oh.
pin setters.
Do you have any remembrances of whenever the public schools were integrated?
Mhm.
You know,
It just seemed like it always was. I never thought it was.
I remember it.
yeah, I don't, I'm not sure about, you know, it's possible that that could have happened whenever I was in Catholic school.
Well, the older kids that were going to the old Douglas school, the high school, county school for the blacks, started high school the next year. But the kids that were in grade school, like people our age would have been at the time, they waited and they finished the 8th grade over at the grade school there.
Right in Herculaneum?
Yeah, right there in Herculaneum.
Yeah.
And then freshman year, our freshman year, Larry, is when they began.
Oh, okay.
But, yeah, the younger kids, they let finish 8th grade. The older kids, they brought from Douglas
Yeah.
High School in Festus back to Herky.
Okay.
Barb, Casey,
Yeah.
Ben Manning, those guys. Yeah, they all had gone to Douglas School to begin with,
Well,
yeah. And
See, when,
finished out at Herky.
by the time I started in high school here, you know, we had Don Taylor,
Yeah, our freshman year, Jean.
Alfred Manning.
Well,
Of
Alfred.
course, Alfred was the year ahead, but I mean, but there was, you know, there's Burris,
Wayne.
Henry, and Wayne
I
Henry.
played football.
And so, you know, there was quite a few,
I just, it just
And
seemed
I didn't-
like they've been.
I didn't actually know.
Didn't make any.
It wasn't a big deal
I
back
don't
then.
think
No,
it was
we,
to us.
Didn't
It
think
wasn't
anything
a
about
big
it.
deal.
It was-
I
I mean,
think there were some snide comments in town, of
Oh, you're
course.
gonna have a few.
Back then you would. But to us kids, to our generation, it wasn't a deal.
and we played
It's no
together
big
all the
thing.
time before.
Yeah, we played softball all summer anyway together, so what difference did
Yeah,
it
it
make?
didn't,
It
I
didn't
mean, we
matter.
never even thought anything about it.
It didn't matter to our generation, but older people, there were a few snide comments, of course there were.
Did any of you like serve in the military or?
Actually, after I graduated, I went in the Air Force for 4 years. Dave, you were in?
Yeah, I was in for a couple of years.
He fought the Battle of Georgia a couple times. He was called up during the Berlin crisis,
Yeah.
a couple of times. He was in
Do you remember the Korean War or Vietnam, like what was going on at the time or?
Sure, sure. Bill, who's sitting over here on camera, our uncle was in the Korean War, and he was a radio man, our uncle too, Harry Haggard. And I remember, like I said, I remember when Bill's dad came home from the Second World War, and I remember the day too, walked in the house from the Korean War. And of course, we've all got our own ugly memories of Vietnam.
And Freeman was grade school principal's Korean veteran. We used to call him London guys. We didn't want to listen to the school stuff. We didn't tell them war stories. They just kind of war stories.
I had an uncle that was a career man in the Army, and he was in the Korean War. And I can remember him coming home, and he'd been in Japan, and he brought my mother the most beautiful silk kimono that I had ever seen, and brought us all a little gift of some kind. I can't remember what it was now, but we were Johnny. We were so glad to see him.
My, only recollection of Vietnam, I was in, there was been quite a bit of shooting. I didn't go, we didn't have to, I was in the Air Force, so, but where I worked there, I was in Washington State out there in Fort Air Force Base. I know we were constant, I was in an aircraft mechanics, and we were patching up a lot of C-124 Globemasters, which they used for cargo and hauling troops and stuff like that. But, as far as that time was kind of a turbulent time, I think, in the country, but, and I was gone from here a little bit during that time, but whenever I came back, this area I don't think was so much affected by, like a lot of areas. Maybe
Those
I just
big
missed
changes,
it. Maybe
those big changes usually start on the coast and come in. Well, then by the time it gets to Middle America, it's not that big a
Maybe
change.
Well, our age, like I got out right before it started.
Yeah, it was the people just a
People
little
after
bit
us
younger
that
than
was
us that
affected.
really were doing the fighting and the dying.
Well, yeah, they got in. Yeah.
Yeah, it was the people who were 4 and 5 years younger than us that really caught the front end of it. And I just remember, even from the get-go, thinking, that this is, no, it was a horrible time. And I remember the first phone call I got regarding a friend of my brother's who was killed, and Jimmy Coleman, when he was killed, and it was just, I think that really brought it home to me, like, little Jimmy's dead, because, it was just.
Well, there was three boys from here that were killed within about 6 months. Reese,
Stacy.
Jimmy Coleman,
Jimmy.
and Higgins,
Yeah.
Herschel Higgins.
Yeah.
All three of them
They were on
were.
that.
I don't know if it was 6 months, but it was real short time. And they
2
were,
days between two of them.
yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
So you know what I mean. It did affect a lot of people, right here because of that. That particular
Yeah,
thing that was pretty traumatic, and but.
Yeah, it was an ugly time. It was an
Yeah.
ugly time. There's no getting around it. It was an ugly time.
What's your fondest memory of growing up in Herky?
We've already told you that.
Well, I think we kind of meant about just being a real close. All the kids were.
Community. Everybody took care
I mean,
of
but by those standards today, I guess I wouldn't say we were poor, but we just didn't have a whole lot. But everybody
we were
was the
poor,
same.
Larry.
Well, no, everybody was in the same boat.
Compared to who?
Well,
We didn't know what
I mean,
to
we didn't
compare
know.
to.
Yeah, so
Everybody pretty much was poor.
I think that made us a lot closer as a community. And I already mentioned the fact that, you know, until about a year or so before I left Herculaneum, I never bothered to ever lock my front door on my house, and that's true. It was just, I don't know, it was just
You
a
felt at
safe.
home no
and-
matter what part of town you were in because someone was caring for you.
Yeah, I mean, you know, your neighbors were always looking after you,
Right.
you know,
Every place was home.
and it was just, boy, that, and I don't
could
think
go
we'll ever
into
find
her
that
mom and
again.
dad's house at any time, whether she's home or not, go straight to the refrigerator, get me something to eat or drink, and leave and not say hi, bye, kiss my butt, and nobody would think a thing about it. It
Well,
just was,
and-
and our aunts and uncles, I mean, they were really,
Well, people
Part of
dropped
your
in on
life.
you unannounced, let's just put it
yeah,
that way.
nobody called to say,
Nobody
"May
called
I come over?"
anybody and said, is it okay if I come over? It was, okay, I'm here.
Yeah.
We had a telephone, I mean, not too many.
Well, no.
We didn't even
I
have
still
phone.
remember the old crank phone.
We
Everybody
never,
on the
you
same
know,
line,
you're-
everybody
you
listened
don't-
in when we talked.
We don't do that anymore. And that's sad because, you know, we used to have so much fun just
Yeah.
getting together.
Just the spontaneity of it all, yeah. Yeah, nobody called to make a request or announce it, you know, you just, you want to see somebody, you want to see them.
Mm-hmm.
And, it was just a lovely, warm, safe place to be. That's what I remember best about it.
And we chewed your ear off long enough.
Told you anything you didn't already know?
I found out a lot today.
Good. We've got a lot more to say, we can't say it on the record, that's all.
Can I go back and ask just a couple things? I think, Rhonda, I had a question on there, something about unusual nicknames of individuals, which you kind of alluded to that. Although I didn't know foul ball. And I do remember Pork Chop,
yeah.
Manning, and Doodlebug
Uh-huh.
as names. But the different parts of town, you said Concrete Town several times. And I think Rhonda said Checking Office Hill.
Oh, check it out.
Office Hill.
Well, what about Dead Man's Holler?
Dead Man's Holler
Dead
Hill.
Man's Holler.
That's what I wanted.
Yeah, check-in office is the one that came up out of downtown Herky by the plant,
Yeah.
and because
Checked in
the
out.
office that you check in and out of to go to work
Right.
was there, they called it the check-in office. And then Dead Man Holler Hill is the hill there by
School.
the football field.
Right, yeah.
And,
Herky Hills, one.
Herky Hill, out on the-
61, 67.
yeah, one going up
I know,
by the
when you
Assembly
read,
God Church there.
Bill Bradley's book, his first reference in there is he knows he's home when he comes over Herky Hill. And
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
we're trying to get him to come in here next year, and
Oh,
we used
yeah,
it
yeah.
in the letter we sent to him about coming home to Herky Hill. So
Yeah.
we're actually in contact with him right now.
Oh, well, that's
So-
great.
Wow, that is
But-
wonderful.
Checking Office Hill is one I was kind of trying to get out, and then Dead Man Hollow.
Dead Man
Oh, yeah.
Hollow.
Yeah.
Everybody,
We used to walk up and down that hill a lot.
Well, you know, years ago, I mean, now the streets did have names. Now, I mean, you know, and it wasn't names that the city gave them. It was just, I think a lot of them was just, if somebody happened to live on the street, like Hill Street, there was a few hills lived on Hill Street, and like, you know, if I said, I'm not even sure what that street is there where Dead Man's Holler is, because everybody always said,
Dead Man
well, I
Hollow.
walked up Dead Man's Holler Hill. Well, everybody knew where that was. You know, you didn't have to know the street. You know, you just
I don't think it
knew.
is.
Or checking off Hill, you knew where that was.
I didn't even know ours.
So there's a lot, yeah.
Years afterwards. Didn't know it had a name.
Yeah, you turn there by so-and-so's house and go up, you know,
Yeah.
and it's.
Go
Yeah.
A couple of blocks and
Top of
turn
the hill.
left.
Yeah.
and-
But yeah, there was Colored Town, there was, Old Town Church Street and Lower Main. There was Big Bug Hill, that's where
Yeah, that's where all
all
the
the,
big houses.
Well,
the
that's
big
where
houses
the
and
guys
the
lived.
executives from the lead company lived and or whatever. And, well, Concrete Town, and then, I don't know what that like North Main out Joachim, I don't know, I guess that was all part of Concrete County, but I don't know for sure, but, and the group over on Kerr Street and that area, they all, the kids from your dad's street, Short Street, the Williamses and the Pattersons and the Rapps and I don't know, they all played in that, they thought it was a huge forest at the time, there, Dead Man Holler Hill, that field there, they thought, man, they were really lost where you see right through it. You know. Buckaloos. But,
Whenever he tore down that garage, he give us all a hammer and turned us loose.
And another question I think they skipped over, the influential individuals and community leaders, who did you see as being the leaders in town? I think you might have alluded to a couple of them.
Well, I think Dr. Sim probably.
yeah, that, of course,
Well,
maybe Liz Harden.
well, yeah.
Dad Rapp, Butch Rapp was always involved in Lions Club, school board and stuff.
And Mr. Taylor.
Mr. Taylor. Oh
Well,
my goodness.
you know, this comes a little bit later, Don Sandler. I mean,
Yeah.
I didn't really necessarily always, agree with all these people, but I mean, they were kind of influential at the time. Don.
Well, Don, yeah,
He got the
well, he's the one
city.
who found out that the town had been incorporated
Yeah.
100 years earlier, yeah.
Right. And kind of got that going again, and was certainly, he was active in trying to get it incorporated again.
And of course, whoever happened to be the plant manager at the time was always involved in decisions because of what, like I say, St. Joe was pretty much of a benefactor to the town.
Is that the gunsmith down there by Buckaloos?
Oh, Carroll, Joe Carroll.
Joe Carroll,
That's Kathy's grandpa?
Yeah.
yeah, next to Purchase.
And I'll tell you, there were, Bud Caston.
Yeah.
Certainly Bud had some influence in town. I mean, as a politician,
Mm-hmm.
and
Well,
knew.
I think people generally liked him.
Well, yeah, Bud was all right, and actually, for a small town, that we were pretty well known by a lot of the politicians around the
Yeah.
state.
Mhm.
I can remember one of the guys that I worked with. He was quite a little bit older than me, but in fact he was closer to my dad's age. Broke his leg over here at school one night. They'd been to the tavern, and him and another guy bet each other that they could outrun him. So they came over to the track field, and they had a race. I'm not sure who won, but the police pulled up for some reason. I don't even know why. I mean, it wasn't no big deal.
And we didn't even have police.
But Willie got excited and jumped the fence and broke his leg, and a couple of days later he got a letter from the then governor of the state of Missouri, which was Herman's,
Mhm.
and commenting about, so I mean, it was kind of noteworthy, I think, that for some reason, and I don't know what the reason was, but a lot of people knew where Herculaneum was. A lot of influential people, whether they'd be governors, senators, or whoever.
Been here a long
Kind
time.
of.
Very active in Democratic politics is what this area Turkey has been, generally speaking. There are some
Yeah.
that want, but generally speaking, it's a Democratic town and very active in local and state politics.
Yeah.
You got two others. School carnivals, the homecoming, and you remember the boating, skiing, and all that on the river.
Yes,
What do you
yes,
remember
yes.
about down on the river?
I remember my Uncle Mel built a boat in his basement.
I remember
Had to
that.
knock the wall down to get it out. But he and I would spend just about every Sunday down at the the guys that like boating organized a marine club and built boat docks down there, and it was really pretty nice, and wasn't nothing fancy. There was no cabanas or anything. Everybody brought their own refreshments, but nice boat dock, he and I spent just about every Sunday out on that river. And one Sunday, we decided instead of the boat dock, we were going to come up the Joachim and get out on the Joachim. And steering cable broke. We were going dead. I mean, just like a bullet up that creek. And steering cable broke, and the next thing I knew, we were sitting up on the bank. And he looked at me, and I looked at him, and I guess he thought I was going to freak out, but we just burst out laughing. It was just like something out of a cartoon, you know. You were running. But yeah, that down on the river was quite the thing. Oh my God, yeah. There might be 150, 200 people down there on any given Sunday afternoon.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was.
I was a little, I was really young, but I was, Dad was involved and had different ones with the boat club there.
Mm-hmm.
And we helped build that, well, I guess it was really the original and only docks.
Mm-hmm.
And it was really pretty nice, but the problem was that it didn't last too long because the river would come up, and of course a lot of debris and stuff would come down, and eventually it just washed it out and stuff away. But they put in, along with the docks, they put in a ramp there, concrete ramp, and in fact the old ramp's still down there. Now it's when the river gets down, you can't hardly use it because it's pretty bad down.
Well, that's a bad spot because it's just like little ledges and cliffs, and the current comes. It's a bad place to try to get your in and out of.
It's not
It's
easy.
booger.
And but yeah, that was a pretty good. I don't remember. It probably went for 2 or 3 years, pretty strong, and then Crystal City, they got a boat club down there, and they had a little bit better deal. Where they had theirs, it was kind of protected a little bit, so that the docks and stuff, they didn't have much trouble trying to keep them.
People used to just go down on it there too.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
Sunday afternoons.
Yeah.
Roll
Shoot
22s down there.
Yeah. Well, it was a big thing.
Like I say, we didn't have too much to entertain.
And of course, it was a good parking spot too.
Well, yeah.
Wonderful party.
Yeah, well, everybody had a car.
Huh?
Everybody had a car.
If you didn't get bushwhacked.
And then the other thing, of course, was the carnivals that we used to have right here on the track field, or the football field here at school.
I thought they were down out there around this parking lot.
Well,
But I remember.
And I've got photos of it out here.
have you? Well, I remember whenever they put it up right on the football field.
Yeah, I don't recall that. I don't recall that. I'm not
Some
saying
of
you
the lights
don't,
and,
but I remember out there on that parking lot.
but that was, I'm not even sure what years we're talking about there. That's been back, what?
It ran
That's
from the 30s until the late 50s.
I was gonna say, the late 50s, I remember.
I remember
20, almost 30
I
years.
remember through the 8th grade, and after that, I don't remember.
Yeah, well, probably about right. But, and that, now that was in the summertime, wasn't it? I mean,
It was autumn, wasn't it?
Or,
I think it varied.
It varied.
well, maybe so, but I
thought
was,
it was autumn, right after school started. I don't know, maybe not. because-
well, like I say, it's kind of hard for me to remember what happened yesterday, but I do remember a few things that happened 40 years ago.
Yeah.
Are we finished?
Yes, all the questions.
Okay?
Good meeting you, boys.
Yeah.
Mark, what's your project?